The first thing I noticed was his hands. They were scrubbing the floor of a woman I had never seen before, in a house I did not recognize, in the same town where I had left him 10 years ago, wrapped in my arms and crying because he was too small to understand why his father had to go. He did not see me standing at the gate. He had his back to me, on his knees, a rag in each hand, scrubbing the concrete floor of a large compound with the focused silence of someone who had learned a long time ago not to look up. My son, 14 years old, on his knees, in someone else's house, scrubbing their floor. I had left Nigeria with one promise, one. I told his mother, I told him, I told God himself. I said, I am going so that he never has to bow to anyone. I am going so that he grows up with his chin level. I am going so that no floor in this country ever knows the weight of my son's knees. I had been gone 10 years. I was standing at a gate watching my promise scrub someone else's dirt. Welcome to Tales of Africa Studio, where Africa's most powerful stories come alive. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you're the first to see our next video. Let me tell you what 10 years feels like when you are far from home. It feels like water running through your hands. Every week looks like the last one. Every year arrives and departs without permission. You tell yourself, next year I will go back. Next year things will be more stable. Next year I will have enough to return with something in my hands rather than more promises. And then one morning, you wake up and a decade has passed, and the boy you left at 4 years old is now 14, and you have missed 10 birthdays and 200 school mornings, and every single night he went to bed wondering where his father was. I had sent money every month without fail. I want to say that clearly, because I need you to understand that I did not disappear. I sent money. I called when the network allowed. I prayed for him by name every night. But money is not a father. A phone call is not a hand on his shoulder. And prayer, as much as I believe in it, cannot talk a child in at night. I know that now. I did not know it fully until I stood at that gate. I had left my son with his aunt, my younger sister, Adaeze. She was the only one I trusted. She had a good heart, I believed that then. She had never given me reason to doubt her. When I told her I was going to Italy to work, she held my hands and said, "Brother, go. I will carry your son like my own. Go and come back better." I believed her. I sent her money for his school fees every term. I sent extra at Christmas. I sent more when she said the roof needed fixing. I sent more when she said there was a medical bill. I sent money for 7 years without a single question because she was my sister and my son was in her hands, and I trusted both of those facts completely. What I did not know was this. 3 years after I left, Adaeze had remarried. A man named Emeka. A man I had never met, never spoken to, never approved. And Emeka did not want another man's child in his house. Not eating his food, not sleeping in his spare room, not sitting at his table. So Adaeze made a decision. She did not call me. She did not write. She simply moved my son from the bedroom to the boys' quarters, from the table to the kitchen floor, from school uniform to a cleaning rag. She told him his father had forgotten him. She told him the money had stopped coming. She told him that this scrubbing, this serving, this silence was now his life until he was old enough to find his own way. And she kept collecting my money every single month for 7 years. I did not go through the gate immediately. I stood there for a long time, long enough to watch him finish one section of floor and move to another, long enough to see the woman of the house come out, look at his work, say something I could not hear, and go back inside without acknowledging that the boy on the floor was a human being. Long enough to feel something happen inside me that I do not have a clean word for. It was not just anger. Anger is too small. This was the feeling of a man who had built a bridge for 10 years only to arrive and find that the bridge had been used to cross to the wrong side. I pushed the gate open. The hinge was loud. My son looked up, and for one terrible second, he did not know who I was. He looked at me the way a boy looks at a stranger, cautious, a little afraid, already calculating whether this person meant trouble. That second lasted longer than 10 years. Then something shifted in his face, something slow and uncertain, like a word you have forgotten that comes back to you in pieces. "Papa?" He said it, quietly, not with joy, not yet, with the specific caution of a child who has been disappointed so many times that even good news has to be verified before it is believed. I crossed that compound in 4 steps. I did not care about the rag in his hands or the dirt on his knees or the woman watching from the window. I held my son, and he stood very still for a moment, the way a person stands when they are deciding whether to trust something. Then something in him broke open, and he held me back so hard I could feel every year of his absence in the grip of his arms. He did not cry immediately. He held on first, like he needed to confirm I was real before he allowed himself to feel anything. That destroyed me more than the tears did. I found my sister in the market that afternoon. She saw me from 2 stalls away. I watched her face go through 4 different expressions in the time it took me to reach her. First recognition, then joy. Genuine reflex joy, the kind the body produces before the mind can stop it. Then, as I kept walking toward her without smiling, the joy curdled into something else. Then fear. She knew what I had seen. She knew before I opened my mouth. "Brother." "How much?" I said. She blinked. "How much of my money did you keep? Calculate it for me, every month for 7 years. Add it up and tell me the number." "Brother, let me explain. He was scrubbing floors at Daise." The market continued around us. Women buying tomatoes, children running, a radio somewhere playing a song. Life in its ordinary motion, completely indifferent to the fact that my sister and I were standing in the middle of it, and something between us was ending. "He was on his knees in another woman's compound," I said. "My son, the one you said you would carry like your own." She started crying. I want to be honest with you here, because this story deserves honesty. I felt nothing when she cried. That frightened me. I have always been a person who responds to tears. I've always found it difficult to maintain anger in the presence of genuine distress. But standing there watching my sister cry, I felt nothing except a cold, clear, complete understanding of exactly what she had done and exactly what it had cost my son. She said Emeka had pressured her. She said she had been afraid of losing her marriage. She said she had told herself the boy was fine, that he was managing, that boys are resilient. She said she had meant to tell me, many times. She had meant to. I listened to all of it. Then I said, "Where is the money?" She had spent it. Of course she had. I did not shout. I did not make a scene in the market. I am telling you this not because I want credit for restraint, but because I want you to understand what I chose to do instead. I went to the house where my son had been walking, and I knocked on the door. The woman of the house opened it. I told her who I was. I told her that the boy she had employed as a domestic worker was my 14-year-old son who had been placed in her care without my knowledge or consent. I told her I was collecting him. I told her that if she had any issue with that, we could discuss it at the police station. She did not have any issue with it. Funny how quickly people find no issue when the person in front of them is no longer a child. I took my son's small bag. It was not heavy. It barely weighed anything, which told me everything about how little he had been given. And I walked him out of that compound. He was very quiet as we walked. After a while, he said, "Papa, where are we going?" I said, "We are going to find you a school." He stopped walking. He looked at me with an expression I will never forget as long as I live. It was not happiness exactly. It was something more complicated than happiness. It was the face of a boy who had stopped expecting good things and was now standing in front of one and did not yet have the emotional language to process it. "A school," he said, like the word was in a foreign language. "A good one," I said, "with a uniform and books and a desk that is yours." He did not smile yet. He just nodded very slowly, like a man receiving news he needs time to verify. We kept walking. I need to tell you something that is harder to say than anything else in this story. My sister did a terrible thing. That is true, and I will not soften it. But here is the other truth, the one that kept me awake every night in the weeks after I came home. I left. I made the choice to go. I made the choice to stay gone year after year. I told myself I was doing it for him, and I believe that was true. But I also know that somewhere inside the decision to stay another year and then another was the simpler fact that life abroad was easier than the life I had left. That the distance had become, over time, not just a sacrifice, but also a kind of relief. I did not want to examine that too closely. I am examining it now. A man can send money and still abandon his child. Those two things are not contradictions. They are the same sentence written in different languages. My sister stole from me. She stole from my son. She will have to carry that for the rest of her life, and I believe she will, because whatever else Adaje is, she is not a woman without conscience. The tears in the market were real. The guilt was real. What she did with it for 7 years, the burying, the justifying, the pretending, that is what I cannot forgive yet. Yet. That word is doing a lot of work in my life right now. My son's name is Chukwemeka. We call him Emeka. And yes, I am aware of the irony, because that is also the name of the man who looked at my son and saw a problem to be managed rather than a child to be loved. Names mean nothing about character. I know that now too. Emeka, my Emeka, started school 3 weeks after I brought him home. The first morning I drove him, he sat in the front seat in his new uniform and held his school bag on his lap with both hands and looked out the window the entire drive. He did not say much. At the gate of the school, he turned to me and said, "Papa, will you still be here when I finish?" I understood the question beneath the question. He was not asking if I would be at the school gate at closing time. He was asking if I was going to disappear again. "I am not going anywhere," I said. "I am home." He looked at me for a long moment, weighing it, testing whether the words felt true. Then he got out of the car, straightened his uniform, and walked through the gate without looking back. That was 3 months ago. He has not asked me that question again. I think that is progress. I think that is the beginning of something being rebuilt. I think it will take years, maybe the rest of both our lives. I think that is fair. People have asked me what I want to happen to Adeze. I do not have a clean answer. I want her to suffer the way my son suffered. That feeling is real, and I will not pretend otherwise. I also want, somewhere smaller and quieter, to one day sit across from my sister and understand how a person who loved someone allowed herself to do what she did. Not to forgive it, just to understand it. Because I believe that understanding something is different from excusing it. And I believe that a life spent only in anger at the people who hurt us is a life that eventually belongs to them. I do not want Adaeze to own any more of my life than she already has. What I want, what I am working toward every single morning, is to be present for my son in all the ways I was not. I want to be at the gate when school closes. I want to know the names of his friends. I want to be the person he calls when something goes wrong before he calls anyone else. I want to earn back the trust that 10 years and one terrible woman drained him. I want to be his father, not his sender of money, not his memory of a man who used to be there. His father, present, accountable, here. That is what I came home for. That is what I am staying for. And if you are somewhere far from home right now, reading or listening to this, with a child who is waiting, I am not here to judge you. I am only here to tell you what I found when I waited too long. Go home. Go home before the floor knows your child's knees. Go home before they stop recognizing your face. Go home while they still ask about you. Go home. So, tell me, if you come back to this sad reality after 10 years abroad, what would you do? Would you ever forgive Adaeze, my sister? Share your thought in the comments below. Tap subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Like this video to support more stories like this, and share it with someone who needs to feel this.